much, Amanda. Thank you to every one of you who is sharing this next 45 minutes or however much you're going to share with me. I'm very grateful that you're here. And thank you to Make Music for sponsoring this event. So I like to start my presentations with a joke. So our first joke is going to be, oh goodness gracious, our first joke. Ah, there we go. All right. Is going to be, what do you call a laughing piano? And forgive me for starting with a silly joke. And here's what you call a laughing piano: a Yama, ha 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 ha. Now you might wonder, why am I starting with silly jokes? And silly jokes are a great way to get your kids happier, and happiness matters. And what we're going to talk about today is some tools from social emotional learning, from positive psychology, that will help get our kids happier. And here's why it matters. In studies with doctors, happier doctors are 19% faster and more accurate at coming up with the correct diagnosis. Happier people are 13% more productive, according to a study in 2019. Happier people are healthier, according to a study in 2017. Happier people make more money. You're starting to get the idea. 2013 study, more optimistic people are 37% better at sales. And teachers, we are salespeople. We are selling music. We are selling a lifestyle of community and love and cooperation. And we need to be good salespeople. We need to be more optimistic. Engaged employees are more productive, a 2022 report. That's no big surprise. Students whose teachers were optimists make greater academic gains than their peers. That's an Angela Duckworth study that's in her book, Grit. We need to nurture our optimism. We need to believe in our kids. We need to really know that they are capable of things they could possibly never dream of. And happier people are happier. All right, here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about a little bit more about why happiness matters and some studies of positive psychology. Then we're going to talk about how it's really important for us to incorporate lessons of social emotional learning and positive psychology into every single lesson that we teach. It's not just Mindful Monday. It's going to be something that we refer to every single day. And I just have to put a shout out to the next session with Anne Fennell. Last year, her session really almost changed my life. It was a session in incorporating habits of mind into every lesson. It's on YouTube. You can go back and listen to it. I don't know what she's going to talk about today, but if she was anywhere near as inspiring as she was last year, you really need to stick around and listen to her. And so they will listen to us. I have some tools that I hope to share from you. Some of you I have shared. If you've been on with me before, you'll have heard some, but I have some new ones. So I promise it'll be worth waiting for. We're going to talk about a social emotional learning toolbox, things that we can do to incorporate. We're going to show you some shared playlists that Brian Balmages, Chris Bernitas, and me put together, Ted Scalzo also, and how you can use those to facilitate social emotional learning lessons. I'm going to show you some resources. We're going to leave time for questions. And if you have any really gem motivational tools that have really worked for you, I want you to put them in the chat. And at the end, when Amanda sees if there are any questions, we're going to save 5 minutes for maybe some of your gems, and she can read some of those to the whole group. Now, as I go through these tools, I want you to know that you cannot serve from an empty vessel. Our students are as good as we are. So every tool that you see here, I want you to see how you can apply it to yourself. And that's actually why I'm in this. I needed some help applying these tools. And the best way to learn how to do something is to teach it. So thank you for helping me get better at all of this stuff. So we're going to start with a little heady. We're going to go from stupid joke to the purpose of life. We're going to talk about Aristotle, who says that the ultimate goal in life is to strive for something he called eudaimonia, which translates into English as happiness, but it's a very weak translation because happiness to the Greeks meant flourishing, using your strengths, using your virtues to live your best life. You means good, daimon means soul, to be and have a good soul, to work with your virtues. To the extent that we are living with that best version of ourselves, that will bring us the most joy. That's some pretty heavy stuff. But if we can close the gap between who we could be and who we are right now, that will make us happier, because it's in that gap where depression lives, where the frustration of our students live, because they know they could be doing better, but they know that they're not. Now, what does positive psychology have to say about the ultimate purpose of life? Martin Seligman and his colleagues, who coined the term positive psychology, studied all the great wisdom traditions, all the great philosophies, and they all agree on one thing, that the ultimate purpose in life is to be the best version of yourself in service to something other than yourself. Isn't this an awesome definition of happiness and joy and purpose for teachers? Because we are built in, we are in service to something other than ourselves. And the better we can be, the better they're going to be. That's what's going to bring us the greatest joy. So Martin Seligman's website is called Virtues in Action. He came up with 24 virtues that all the great traditions have. And how can we get better at putting those virtues in action? Because knowing about all this stuff is okay, but it is not the battle. The battle is doing this stuff, putting these virtues in action. And just knowing everything about your external circumstances predicts only 10% of your happiness. So we have control of a lot of our happiness, how we work with the virtues and work with our strengths. I just have to shout this out every time I give her a presentation. Sean Aker taught at Harvard, assisted at a happiness class at Harvard, and he has this 13-minute TED Talk. I'm going to give you a little homework. One piece of homework is find this TED Talk, and it's in the notes that I gave you so you can find that. Just listen. 13 minutes changed my life. A really quick study, early positive psychology study that some people have heard before if they've heard me. They gave some doctors a fictional patient, and they said, what's wrong with this patient? They gave half of the doctors a bag of candy to figure it out, and the other half, they just said, figure it out. The guys who got the candy, I suspect, actually, this was in 1995. Hopefully there were women too. The people who got the candy were 19% more accurate than the people who did not get the candy, just because they got candy and they got happier. So the doctor who led the study summarized it like this: when people feel happy, they have better access to more varied material in their memory. They're more creative problem solvers because their minds are more alive and they are less easily confused. This is what we need to do in the classroom. It's not just a feel-good, happy classroom, but that feel-good, happy classroom is going to let our students become better problem solvers, more engaged, more inspired, more motivated. The only thing wrong with teaching happiness is perhaps your blues playing won't be quite as good as it was before, but I don't have any research on that. Okay, now there is a lot of research on why incorporating social emotional learning is important, and not just, once again, having mindful Monday social emotional learning day, but to incorporate it into everything you do. If you do incorporate it, 10% decrease in emotional distress, such as anxiety and depression, 10% decrease in conduct problems, such as classroom misbehavior and aggression, 10% improvement in attitudes about self, others, and school, 25% improvement in social and emotional skills, 10% improvement in achievement test scores. This slide reminds me of a book by Dan Harris, who was a TV broadcaster, and he had kind of a very public breakdown. And he got into meditation, and he attributes his well-being now and his coming out of that dark time to meditation. And when people asked him, well, what has meditation done for you? He says, it's made me 10% happier. So 10% is a lot. I found all of these stats on the Castle website, which is one of the big websites for social emotional learning. There is a little research on why you should teach the positive psychology tools that I have taught you. So we're going to talk a lot about this class at Yale, taught by Dr. Laurie Santos. It's called The Science of Well-Being. She now has a teenage version of it, The Science of Well-Being for Teens. It's so good. It is the 13-minute TED Talk by Sean Aker. I want everybody to watch. This, though, over the summer, take the time. It took me about 9 hours, I'm guessing, to go through the whole class. So worthwhile. So they did this study comparing in Yale if the college students who took the Science of Well-Being class got happier than the students who just took the introduction to psychology class. And sure enough, the kids who took the psychology class got 1 point higher on a 10-point scale, basically 10% happier. So here are just if you go to Coursera, and these links are in your handout, you can see, you can sign up for free. So these are amazing classes. And if taking classes is not your thing, but podcasts are, Dr. Laurie Santos has a podcast called The Happiness Lab. But I honestly think this Science of Wellbeing for Teens should be a must watch for every single teacher on the planet. So good. And the reason we have such a great bully pulpit to say all these things is because children will listen to us. And we have a little more time with kids than other people. If we teach private lessons, we've got that whole beautiful little half hour, whatever we have. If we see kids in a public school, we might see them over a period of years, and we can really grow. And children will listen. Santam totally got it right. Careful the things you say, children will listen. Careful the things you do, children will see and learn. When we model all of these tools, when we model, just as we're modeling playing our instrument, they will see and they will learn. We have to model everything. I love this quote. I believe everyone will come to realize that our arts educators are the secret weapons to implementation of social emotional learning in our classrooms. We are it. We can do it so easily, slide it in to each lesson. Once again, a little shout out to Ann Fennell's session last year. If you want to know how to put it in without detracting from your curriculum, watch that video that she posted last year. And then here's just a wonderful quote that I get from another site that I could do a shout out to. It's called Heroic. It is the life coaching program that I did. It was called Optimize at the time. Wonderful materials that you can get for free. Summaries of every book you've ever wanted to read, inspirational posters. I love this one. How wonderful it is that nobody need wait a single moment before starting to improve the world. So let's do it. Let's start to improve the world right now. Here's our positive psychology toolbox that we are going to go through. The first tool, which is kind of like, oh, everybody talks about growth mindset, but I want you to really get how important growth mindset is, how important that you see your kids through a lens of optimism, that what they are capable is far more than they possibly could realize. Our brains are so malleable. It is their superpower. If you're given practice, if they're given support, our brains can do absolutely amazing things. And that goes for us and it goes for our kids. If you're using MakeMusic Cloud and you want to use a comment box, which everyone here at MakeMusic wants you to use the comment box, especially Ted Scalzo, because it's just a gold mine. I want you to think about putting in a couple little prompts for the kids that will help them have a growth mindset, that it's more about the process. It's not about the results that they just got. Reframe mistakes as an opportunity to grow. So in the comment box, ask them to answer these questions. What was your favorite mistake? What can you learn from it? Focus on the progress, not just the achievement. What can you try next? What worked well? What needs work? I love that. That's a philosophy of life. Anytime you come across something that you fail, just want you to say, what worked well? What needs work? And put that in and have your kids have that be part of their grade. You can now do gradeless assignments on Smart Music, which I've been lobbying for a long time because I mostly taught little people and those red notes were really, really depressing. Apparently, I've heard from high school teachers that they're depressing for the high school teachers too. But, you know, make it about something else. Make it about a process of learning. What worked well, what needs work. Show them on Smart Music, excuse me, show them on MakeMusic Cloud, my apologies, that they can slow down the tempo, that there's a loop tool, there's a tuner, listen to the performance, listen to their recording. It's endlessly amazing how MakeMusic Cloud gives kids the support that they need to succeed, to grow way beyond what they think they can do. If you don't have a yet sign in your classroom, I put one in the handout. You just stick this on your wall, and when somebody says they can't do it, you just point to it and you go, you can't do it yet. Easy peasy, done. I also have, I made a little toolkit for you, or like a little folder that is linked in my handout. And I'll have links to all of the jokes that I have here. This one is just, I find this one kind of fun. All right. Talk to your kids about productivity pockets. This has been researched by positive psychology. Ideally, 60 to 90 minutes of interruption-free time slots for focused tasks. So encourage your kids. All right, you got homework to do. You want to put in your practicing in there. Get an uninterrupted slot and tell them to not bring their phones, because research shows it takes approximately 24 minutes to regain focus after an interruption. After looking at your phone, seeing the New York Times tell me something that I don't know, it would take me 24 minutes to get back to where I was in my deep work. So if we're going to do deep work, the best kind of work we can do, that phone can't be anywhere near us. And that you can say that to kids, they may not do it, but if you say it, they might. And I like to tell a story about, I was listening to the radio, flipping around on Sirius radio, and I hear a preacher giving a sermon. And in the sermon, he says, people of excellence take their shopping carts back. And I'm going, oh dear, I'm a person of excellence. Of course I am, but I don't take my shopping cart back. And ever since I heard this guy on the radio randomly flipping through, I take my shopping cart back. So you never know the moment you're going to get through to a kid. And whether they do it now or whether they do it when they're 30, you say these things and see if it'll sink in. So all of these little tools, why don't you just put them out there for the kids. Praise effort, not talent. And on this slide, I've taken pictures of a video from a site called the Learner Lab. I emailed Trevor Reagan for permission to use this. And I just wanted to do this to show you how beautifully produced this video is, and all the videos that he has on the Learner Lab. He comes from the sports world. They're all about growth mindset. He's just a growth mindset king. So here's a wonderful study I just wanted to tell you about. So Carol Dweck, and I forget the Muller's first name, do this study with 440 kids. 1998, old study. They give all the kids an easy IQ test, and they praise the kids in one of two ways. When they got good grades, it says, you must be really smart at this. Or they said, you must have worked hard. So now the options for the next test is they could pick a harder version, or they could pick an easy version of the test. What happened if the kids were praised for their intelligence, or in our case, it would be talent, 67% chose the easier version. 92% of the kids praised for their effort chose the harder version. If we can avoid saying to our kids, you're really talented, and focus on, you worked really hard, a huge difference in what those talented kids are going to challenge themselves with. In the same study, they were given a final test as easy as the first. And very interestingly, the kids praised for their effort now did 30% better than the kids. And then the kids who were praised for their intelligence did 20% worse, because they'd already proven that they were smart. They kind of gave up. Crazy, crazy statistics. And very valuable that we just try to catch ourselves. I still do it. I still say, oh my gosh, that you're so good at your vibrato is so natural and so wonderful. But, really try to focus more on effort. I just want to read these Carol Dweck quotes because they're so lovely. The child or adult hears, oh, you think I'm brilliant and talented. That's why you admire me. That's why you value me. I better not do anything that will disprove this evaluation. As a result, they enter a fixed mindset. They play it safe in the future, and they limit the growth of their talent. Whereas focusing on the strategies they use, the way they are stretching themselves and taking on hard tasks, the intense practice they are doing, those are the kinds of things that say to a child or an older athlete, it's about the process of growth. So once again, these come from Trevor Reagan's Carol Dweck praise video that you can find on YouTube or on his site, The Learner Lab, which I just love. This is not positive psychology, but I love to put this in my presentations. Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. Just a really, truly awesome book. So I would like to thank you all in the audience out there for being curious and a dedicated teacher who is giving me 45 minutes of your valuable time to watch this presentation. So there I just gave you a specific compliment. You are curious. You are dedicated. By the way, you are curious and dedicated. He also says names are the sweetest and most important sound in any language. Just use their names. Simple, 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 but just make sure you always use their names. Now we're going to talk about working with our kids' character strengths. So the science about character strengths says that character strengths-based interventions increase student achievement, engagement, and well-being. Engaged students are more productive. We just saw that Gallup poll at the beginning, 22% more productive if your workers identify as engaged. When teachers identify individual strengths and provide support with what is not yet controlled, new strengths can emerge. Focusing on strengths is now more important than ever after COVID. So I just want to show you this site. If you've never seen it, this is the VIA character site. This was started by Martin Seligman. We talked about his virtues in action, where he identified 24 virtues that all the great wisdom traditions have. You can take a survey here where you will get a list of your top, you'll get a list from 1 to 24. What's your best strength? What's your worst strength? These are the 24 character strengths, which you could put in your room, and you could pick one that you would just talk about. Just like with the habits of mind, pick one where, all right, today's creativity day. Let's talk about being creative, and maybe be creative in our classroom for just a brief moment. Just brief little things where you're always referring to social emotional learning, character strengths, positive psychology. If you register for a professional account, which is free, you can give this survey to your students. I actually taught during COVID a positive psychology class to 5th and 6th graders over Zoom. And I gave this to them. I had to get permission from the school. I had to get permission from the parents, but I got it all. And instead of giving, the kids don't get the results because I actually didn't want my 5th and 6th graders to see, all right, they're really good at love, but they really are terrible at honesty, like something like that. I didn't have the time to work with that. Like if I was a social worker and I had more time, I could have. So I just worked with the strengths. Although if honesty was one of them, you could talk to your kid about that. That would be probably a red flag. So anyway, what you will get if you do this is you'll get this little snapshot. So here I called myself Peggy Kid Me just to make sure that you could still do this for free, but you can. You have to kind of skip over some stuff where they're going to try to charge you, but you can do this for free. And you could get this with your kids and then try to have them use, how can I use my love of learning with a certain assignment? What can I do? Like if I'm working on this musical piece, maybe my love of learning will have me Google the composer. Let's find out the real story about the New World Symphony, whatever it is. And you can kind of work with that, or you can use hope. You can use some music in your classroom on those that Brian Balmages wrote. That, oh my gosh, that was such a beautiful piece that he wrote for the woman who had lost her child. You can use these in your classroom. So working with character strengths boosts confidence, increase happiness, strengthens relationships, pretty much everything good that you ever wanted in your life. If you can work with your virtues, your strengths, put them in action, VIA, virtues in action. Also, you can praise them on your comments. So one day I get a little child, she's quite young, and she tried her assignment 66 tries. What I really like about this is she was non-judgmental. She goes, oh my gosh, I did it 66 times. So I wrote back, awesome, 66 times is very impressive. You have great strength of working hard. I could have written perseverance, but I didn't know if she knew that word. But it was a good chance to teach her that word. I probably should have. All right, you want to nurture curiosity. Now, when I took this test and I did very well on curiosity, which I do think I'm pretty curious, but I didn't really get that curiosity also means looking at your life and being curious about what works, what can I improve, and how can I improve. Being curious about that is also part of curiosity. And I told you to put into comments into your assignments, what worked well, answer, what can I improve? So just put those in the comments and nurture some curiosity about how they can get better. I love this Albert Einstein quote. I have no special talent. I am only passionately curious. I got this from a site called Character Lab. Angela Duckworth at the University of Pennsylvania has a bunch of playbooks that she has for all of the strengths and just some lesson plans and some materials that you can use. There's a wonderful video of Wynton Marsalis demonstrating expert practice. It takes a minute. I have so much stuff I'm going over here. I don't want to show it to you. And I actually showed it last year. Another must watch for your kids. Wynton Marsalis, expert. He calls it, instead of deliberate practice, he calls it expert practice, but goes so well with smart music. All right, let's talk about performance anxiety and what tools in positive psychology or social emotional learning can we use. And this is kind of close to my heart because I had a lot of performance anxiety. As a matter of fact, when I was in college, my hands were shaking so much when I was taking a recorder final that my professor said to me, "How can you be a music teacher?" But I got over it. I got past it. So one of the good things about getting older is you do tend to get over things and things aren't quite as threatening as they were before. Thank goodness. But here here are just a few ideas. One is to set up a virtual check-in before someone does a big performance. You can do it before they record an assignment. You can put the link to it. And I'm just going to show you a little bit of what that looks like here in the next slide. So the virtual check-in is just a little form, and it asks, how do you feel about your performance? What can you do to make your performance improve? And then I included on the form, non-judgmentally write 1 to 3 sentences about how you are feeling about this assignment. And this comes from research that shows that students who do expressive writing before an exam do much better on the exam. So if before someone goes to a solo contest, have them fill out that form. It takes really 5 minutes. The form is in your handout. Copy it and then make it your own. Change it around to make it reflect whatever you would like it to do. But it's a really nice, easy thing to do. You can also teach meditation techniques, have kids, try to do a breathing exercise, put that in the comments before. And I have a few other tricks that I'm going to show you. The breathing exercise that I always use with my kids is the 4-7-8 relaxation breath. And it goes on the theory that when you exhale, your exhalation stimulates your parasympathetic nervous system, which calms you down after the sympathetic nervous system has revved you up. So when you get all revved up and you think a bear is coming or tigers are coming after you, your heart races and everything. And then when you exhale, your heart actually slows down. And there's a very minute but measurable difference between when you exhale, your heart rate goes faster. When you excuse me, I said that wrong. When you inhale, your heart rate goes a tiny bit faster, and when you exhale, your heart rate goes a tiny bit slower. So if you emphasize the exhalation and make it longer than an inhalation, it is assumed that it will make you even more relaxed. There's not a whole lot of research on the longer exhale breath. There's tons of research on box breathing, 4 in, hold for 4, 4 out, hold for 4. But this as far as I know, there's not a lot of research, but you can feel it when you do it. So I made this longer exhalation, relaxation breath, and we're just going to do 2 rounds of it. We're going to go a little faster like this. We're going to inhale for 4, we're going to hold for 7, and we're going to exhale for 8. And we're just going to do it 2 times because we are in a hurry. Are you ready? Inhale for 4, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, hold for 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale for 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale for 4. 1, 2, hold for 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Out for 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, you may have felt your body relax a little bit. And we only did it for 2. Dr. Andrew Weil is where I learned this from. And he says, do it for 4, morning and night, and it'll cure everything that you possibly have going wrong with you. I don't think there's a lot of research on that, but it's worth trying. And if you can't sleep, this is also really worth trying to help you go to sleep. And this happens to be a really nice lesson in time signatures for the kids, and tell them what that top number means. So I have a positive psychology playlist, some of my favorite things that we're going to talk about today, and you can find it on your handout. All right. I just like this joke. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, except for bears. Bears will kill you. All right. And now, this is called anxiety reappraisal. We're going to replace I'm afraid with I'm excited. And the research shows that if you do that, she had people sing karaoke, give public speeches, and do math problems. They were 17% better at karaoke, 17% better at public speaking, and 22% better at math. That's kind of crazy. There's a tool called Use Distant Self-Talk. So using distant self-talk means that I'm going to talk to myself, and instead of say, I'm excited, I'm going to go, Peggy, I'm excited. Or Peggy, you've got this. What that does is it helps you gain perspective. And one of the secrets of happiness is to gain perspective and not to ruminate and worry intensely about one little thing, but to see that big picture. And this tiny little self-talk shift will help kids to look out a little bit more at the big picture. Kind of crazy. They got less shame. The first thing shows you that the first person people had a little less shame than the first person speakers, and they were perceived as doing better by others. So just a very cool thing. So I've decided that better than saying I'm excited to make myself feel better, rather than to calm myself down, I'm going to say, Peggy, you're excited. Speak in that second, third person. All right, here's a really cool one. Visualize a wise observer. So on a wise observer, they had children who pretended to be Batman did better on tests than children who did not pretend to be Batman. So if Batman is one of your heroes, you would say, what would Batman do in this situation? Now, Dr. Laurie Santos, who does the happiness class at Yale, said her hero is Beyonce, and she likes to go, what would Beyonce do? I think that's pretty cool. So then, what would Beyonce? What does Beyonce do? So Beyonce has an alter ego called Sasha Fierce. And she is quoted as saying, usually when I hear the chords, when I put on my stilettos, like the moment right before when you're nervous, then Sasha Fierce appears, and my posture and the way I speak and everything is different. That's so cool. Tell kids to get a wise observer. Now, if you work in a parochial school, your wise observer could be God, could be Jesus. It could be whatever you worship. It could be your own inner soul. I asked a student the other day, who's your hero? And she said, me. And I go, you go, girl, you go. You just be that wise inner hero. I've decided mine's going to be Dolly, because this billboard is on Jericho Turnpike in downtown Syosset, right where I live. And I was like blown away. Dolly, you really put billboards up all over the country? How cool is that? It's really, God bless her. So Dolly's my hero. There's a thing called the Amy Cuddy power pose that you can teach your kids. This is where you just sit there and you look like Superwoman for 1 minute. And she claims it raises your cortisol level and will make you do better at whatever it is you're about to do. She's came up with this and had a great, very popular TED Talk in 2010. It got creamed and lots of people thought she was terrible. Apparently, a lot of newspapers came out after her. So she revisited the study and addressed their concerns. And now this is a little, once again, a little more respected. Tell your kids to just stand like Superwoman. Then the power of celebration. Celebration is very, very important, because when we celebrate, according to BJ Fogg from Stanford, he says we can literally hack our brains, squirting dopamine in the direction of our nucleus accumbens. I have no idea if I said that right. The reward center of our brains, such that our brains crave that little reward that comes with our new behavior. He says the most important things for us to work to be happy are gratitude, which we're really not going to cover here, but be grateful for one thing every night, meditation and celebration. I call it the Jolly Rancher effect. Candy really does work, but I really don't want you to use candy if you can help it, because sugar is a huge problem. And I just read that 66% of New York State is obese or overweight. And sugar, if you ask any dietitian, what's the number one thing they all agree on? They all say eat less sugar. So if you can, try giving rewards with conducting the warm up, being the assistant, answering the phone, signing charts, picking the entrance music for the day. I use charts. So I have all these charts, 1 scale, 5 scale, 3 scales, you did it, 7 scales, whatever it is. Once you learned a song, you got to sign a chart. And I found that it really worked really well. Here's my little babies memorizing songs. I put this in my playlist, meditation and stillness. It's incredibly important that our kids disconnect, even if for like 2 minutes every day. And you can either just give them instructions to meditate, or you could run through 4 minutes and 33 seconds and only play half of it, or however much you want to play. When you're meditating, teach this to your kids. When thoughts arise, because they will, view them without judgment and say to yourself, oh, well, regain your focus and start again. This is one of the keys to living well. Something goes wrong. You say, oh, well, add a few questions to reflect on that experience, and then start again. Count your blessings. I just a little shout out to this song because it's crazy, crazy good. And I hope you can all give, if you're a choral people, definitely look at this. It's a Performance Plus. So it's got all sorts of good stuff with it. And it's so catchy. It's like an earworm. It stays in your head, and it has kids count their blessing. You vocal teachers, you're so lucky. You get words to come in, and oh my gosh, take advantage of that. Have them count their blessings. You cannot hold a grateful thought and a negative thought at the same time. Just a little plug for Krista Hart's Gratitude Music Teacher's Gratitude Journal. Here's our quick visited SEL toolbox, identifying emotions. So if kids can identify their emotions and realize that all emotions are part of the human condition, it's okay to have emotions. And it's okay to have a sad playlist, and to let them know that our emotions are temporary. They're not who we are. They flow and they ebb. They come and they go. Make sure they know that. You can use MakeMusic Cloud to have them curate emotion playlists, using all sorts of different emotions. And then they have to go out, be curious, explore the catalog, because it's really good for them to do. Name the playlist with the student name and emotion. You can also, when playing music that expresses emotion, ask the students to actively just try to express it, try to feel that emotion. I do that when I'm playing in church, or if I'm playing in like a funeral. I try to take my flute music and try to put warmth and love into it and send it out there. It's a language. Brian Balmages said that right off the bat in his wonderful keynote for us. It's a language, and we can use that as we play once we have the fundamentals down, which we have to teach. Let all your students know there's room for all emotions. It's all good. Notice them and accept them. Super important. Krista Hart, who did that gratitude journal, and Ted Scalzo, the MakeMusic hero, came up with this wonderful, wonderful list of tons of music on MakeMusic. What was the emotion that it expressed, and what level it was. So you can use that. That's also in your handout. I just like this slide. The bass clef fell over, and now it's very sad. All righty. Now I'm going to skip over this a little bit because I am running out of time. So that seems to be what I do. I run out of time. But you can make habits of mind playlists. You can make character strengths playlists. The habits of mind I learned about from Ann Fennell. You're all staying for her closing comments, I hope. So good. There's a bunch of playlists that you can access. Chris Bernatos gave playlists. And what I did is I put all the links in there. As soon as you click on the link, that's going to populate into your playlist part of MakeMusic. So here's Ted Scalzo's music for SEL. Here's listening for emotional identification. Here's the Rakas Rakas Positive Psychology playlist. You can get access to my beautiful composition, the Longer Exhale Relaxation Breath. Give your students choice. I just looked in, I don't know where I've been, but I just noticed this Blockbusters pop solos full of really cool stuff. And for my summer assignments, I said, all right, kids, because I do a lot of private, let's pick something here. Let's listen, you pick, give them choice. Students that shifted from assigned reading to choice reading increased reading volume, saw a reduction in students failing state tests, and saw an improvement in their peer relationships and self-regulations. Oh my goodness, I am out of time. So here's all these slides are there. I'm going to, oh good, I'm not that much at a time. So we're going to review Happiness Matters, get a yet sign, work with character strengths, get a pulse check-in form if you like before kids go to contest. Speak to yourself in the second or third person, visualize a wise observer, use that power pose, celebrate, meditate, be grateful, identify and accept emotions, and identify and work with habits of mind. All righty. So these are just a bunch of resources that are in your handout that you can use. This is a little plug for the Science of Well-Being, her beautiful podcast, couple slides to end. You can do this. You've got this. Angela Duckworth's favorite, fall 7 times, stand up 8. Faithful attempts in learning is what failure means. If you fall, I'll be there, says the floor. And my personal favorite, Roger screws up. This time I won't screw up. I won't. If you can't see it, Roger is holding one symbol. Ever make mistakes in life? Let's make them birds. Yeah, they're birds now. And when we mess up, as we will, just say, oh, well, ask yourself what went well, what needs work, and start again. I'm not afraid of storms, for I'm learning how to sail my ship. I wish I could read this to you right now, but we are out of time. Read if you can, Ralph Waldo Emerson's What is Success? All right, now this is a link to the handout, and I believe Amanda is going to come back on, and we're going to see if there are any questions or any beautiful hints that people wanted to share.
Yeah, for everybody else attending the session, please make sure if you have any questions, put them in the Q&A. We haven't had any come in yet. So if you have any questions for Peggy, now's your time. Peggy, thank you so much. This is a wonderful session and so many just little hints of things to try that can make such a huge impact.
Thank you.
Yeah. We don't have a question. We do have a question. This session has been amazing and such an eye-opener. If you had to recommend one resource to start, what would it be?
Gratitude. I would start by you want to start really, really small. And now with your kids though, but you could ask them to do this too. Right when they put their head on the pillow, think of one thing they're grateful for. Or I came up with grateful teeth brushing, where when you brush your teeth, because you want to attach a new habit to something you already do. So when you brush your teeth, think of one thing you're grateful for, because gratitude turns around our perspective, turns around the perspective of the kids, and it turns around our perspective towards the kids. So I would start there.
And you provided so many different links and books and everything. Do you have one that just always stands out to you as something really important to share with everybody?
You know what? I'm such a fan of Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's just such a wonderful old school. There's no science behind what he's saying, but it's just wonderful. But the other thing is definitely, guys, check out the Yale Well-Being for Teens class. You will not regret it. Your teaching, I think your teaching will be completely changed for the better if you watch that class. If you have something or a comment, or if I can help you in any way, there's my email. It's really easy, peggyrakas@gmail.com. And thank you to Amanda for facilitating this, and once again to Make Music. I'm really humbled and grateful you were all here.